Welcome to the Create Today podcast. I'm your host, Karen Stanley, certified rapid transformational therapist and hypnotherapist. And my passion is helping women heal from the past and learn how to create the life they love one day at a time. My guest today is Stephanie Austin. She is the CEO of Philo Solutions. She's a lot of things, a mom and a wife and a business consultant. Some people call her their business coach. She's a business strategist. She's incredible. And I'm so happy that you're here, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Heck yeah. Let's help some business owners with their strategies. And I love how you say on your website, most of your in corporate world business education experience, school of life, came from being reactive. And that's really interesting to me, how many things we do as humans that are reactive and how that doesn't serve us the best way. And how did you, I want to hear about your journey in business and how you started exactly, what you ended up doing, what roles you were and the things that you learned. But first, how was it that you came to be aware that you were in fact being reactive and it wasn't really working that well?
Hindsight's 2020, right? So jumping to the end, when I retired from that career, it was about an 18-month decompression process, right? Where you just kind of go over all of the things and think about the good and the bad and what caused different scenarios. And looking back, it was because there was no clear direction for what was supposed to happen given a particular circumstance or situation, right? So for almost 20 years, I worked in the commercial construction industry. And when I started there, I was a receptionist, answering the phones, entering data. I hated it. It was boring. It was the same thing every day. I did get the opportunity about a year in to move over into the project side, which I loved. It was challenging. It was, even though you went through some of the same motions on a repetitive basis, the situations changed because it was a different project, a different client, a different architect, a different stage of the project. So literally everything was different. And while the process of construction is the same in a vacuum, there are infinite number of things that can impact whatever task you're doing. The weather that you can't control, the number of crew members that show up with a subcontractor that you can't control, delivery schedules, lack thereof, incorrect materials, or even getting done too quickly with a particular part of a project. There just can be infinite number of things that impact what you're doing.
So true.
And during the process, I was fortunate enough to be promoted in various, positions throughout my career that put me in a position of leadership very early on. And the entire time,
How old were you?
I was 22 when I started, so maybe as early as 26-ish.
Wow.
So when I started at the company, they were probably $3.5–4 million in revenue. And shortly after I came, we started growing, and we never stopped growing. And that is what led to being reactionary, because we didn't necessarily have a good plan in place for the growth. There was no if this, then this. It was, well, we'll just see what happens and we'll figure it out. It became a joke that things would happen, and that, the line was, well, Stephanie will just figure it out. And that's what happened. Wow. So, there was a lot of great people that worked in the company. And one of my toxic traits is I enable people to delegate up, right? So I was not very good at delegating things down to give me the time to work on the business. Because it was easier for me to just do it because there wasn't a system in place ever.
So you found it would have been, or in hindsight is perfect vision, you found it would have been so much easier had you have had the systems in place. Do you think it's really the
Mm-hmm.
systems that makes it hard for leaders to delegate down?
Partially, I think it's control as well. Um, and but I think part of that it's a marriage of them trusting the system and seeing that it works.
Right.
So and you can't, and nor would I want any business owner or any client to just say to an employee, just take it and do with whatever you want with it, right? I mean, we wouldn't do that. So,
No.
but there has to be guidelines. There has to be procedures and systems. And within those have to be milestones, because you don't just want to let something go and then get to the end and think, well, crap, that didn't work. No, you've got to have those points along the way to know that, yeah, we're on the right track, or no, we need to readjust. And I think that's where things get lost, is business owners think the systems part of it is just this big overarching thing. And when you really sit down and look at your business, 80% of your revenue is produced by about 20% of your processes. Every business has a core process or a set of core things that generate the lion's share of their revenue. Mm-hmm. And if they would take the time to just focus on those and not get lost in, the 100% of every little single thing that they do, it wouldn't be as overwhelming. So I think that people don't realize until the world is on fire that they need help. And then by that time, it's almost feels impossible to take on to do something.
And we will get to how you got into starting your own consulting business. But do you feel like now, is it most of the clients are having the most amount of issues because of growth, or, this construction company grew so fast that can be really challenging? Is that similar to a lot of the businesses that you help today?
I would say for the most part, yes. I do have a few clients that they are not in the growth aspect, but they've had situations in their business which have forced them to pivot and make moves and remove themselves from doing everything. So I have a client, and he is the operator, right? I mean, he runs the operation, he does all the things. And they had a situation in their family where his wife became very ill, and he has to focus on her. I mean, they're in their 30s. Mm-hmm. That forced him to say to his project managers and superintendents, or the other people in his company, key people, hey, I need you guys to step up. But he had no idea, and now he doesn't have the time to train them because he's taking care of different things, and they have no idea what they're doing because they're stepping into a role that they've never been in before. So that's a scenario. I have another client who growth is the reason that they were drowning, because it just kept coming and it wasn't planned. They made a couple of key choices and it worked out, and it exploded, and they called and said, Steph, we've got to have help. But they did the work. They put in the work for defining those guidelines, defining those metrics. And now, I mean, they're growing like crazy because they can manage the growth. And I think that's, what happens a lot of times. We start a business, right? We say, I think I'm going to start a business today. I can do this on my own. So you do that, and you get some revenue and you think this is great, well, then you have more people calling and more people inquiring. So you say, oh my gosh, I need somebody to help me. So you bring on someone, and they're probably either a friend or someone who knows you. Maybe you've worked with them before, who kind of knows how to help you, right? And then you get more busy. So you say, now I need to bring on an employee to do
Mhm.
operations part and start producing. Well, now you have to teach them how you want it to be done. It's not the what, it's the how. And that's usually what happens is the growth happens and people aren't ready for it. They don't know how
Yeah.
to manage it.
And when you think about it, when we start a business, we've got all of these individual experiences that has led up to that point. Most
Mm-hmm.
of us don't just graduate high school and start a business, although you can, and some people have,
Mm-hmm.
but most of us have accumulated some type of others, experience that is unique to us. So when
Right.
you start a business, you're the only one with all of that wisdom and knowledge, all of your wisdom and knowledge and experience. It's all unique to the unique person. So it can be easy, I think, to just forget that everyone else doesn't have that same vision, doesn't have the same experience, doesn't have the same knowledge that it's not exactly the same, even though they might have been in a similar field. So
Right.
I think it's easy to forget that and go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I do need to put these things in, put some thought into these things and do some training and think about what people really need to know to do this job and that job. That's so
Mm-hmm.
cool that you're helping people do that. So back to your construction company, and
Yep.
you getting busier and busier, you're growing more and more, and did you have some kind of a pivotal moment where you had the epiphany or realization that you're not delegating enough and this is not working out?
Yeah. It's embarrassing because, um, you know, I don't mind doing the hard things,
Yeah.
but I don't want other people to have to do hard things and go through tough things, right? So when we are in business or we're running a business, I have thick skin. I was raised that way. Um, and or so I thought. I had thick skin. But if somebody was going to get mad and take a chewing, it was going to be me. If someone was going to mess up and you know need to get out of a situation, I wanted that to be me. And so I protected my employees by rescuing them, for lack of a better word. They were very good at their jobs, but as you know, there are humans in the world. We had clients that were very, very difficult. Some you just couldn't please no matter what you did. And so I took on all of the difficult conversations. I took on all the different difficult meetings. And in doing that, I opened the door for them to start bringing other things to me that maybe weren't as hard. And it was just easier, right? It was just easier for Stephanie to just give them the answer.
Just
Um,
handle it.
yeah. So I was diagnosed with lupus in, I think, 2012.
Mm.
Um, I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Um, through a bunch of testing, determined that's what was happening, autoimmune disease. And it's triggered by stress. It's triggered by a lot of different things. And if you know anything about construction, it's an environment that is only stress. I mean, you don't,
Yes.
there's not any part of it that's not stressful. Um, and so just having that environment contributed to some health challenges. And
Mm.
along the way, there was some other. I added some other autoimmune diseases, syndromes, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're like wolves. They run in packs. It's crazy. When you
Mm.
get one, it's like surprise.
Really?
Here's a twin.
I didn't
Um,
know that.
yeah, it's very common, and um, so going through that journey and finding out all of those different things, the way that you eat can impact. Of course, that's true with everybody, right? But as I started researching different things, started researching, things that would help lessen the symptoms. It's not a disease that you can ever get rid of, but you can try to mitigate the symptoms as much as possible so that it doesn't start affecting your organs as early. I do have organ involvement right now and have had for a few years, but my hope is just to manage and keep it, as slowly progressing as possible. And so things that trigger my health decline or stress, not sleeping, caffeine, not eating well, sunlight. So like all of the things that I did on a daily basis.
All day.
I drank coffee like it was going out of style. Oh, look at that thumb right there.
Hey.
So, I would maybe eat a spoonful of peanut butter throughout the day because I had to eat on the go, right? I didn't sleep well because I would have my phone going off at all different hours, starting very, very early in the morning. I had to be outside. So, just all of these different things that environmentally contributed to my health decline. And then adding to the fact that I was horrible at delegating and I was horrible at saying no, just added to all of that stress. So, one of the additional health conditions that I developed was degenerative disc disease in my back. So I started having some pain and went to chiropractor. He ordered some MRIs and he just said, we've got to get you down to a specialist. So I went to a spine specialist and spent quite a bit of time with some testing, lots of different things. And they finally determined that I needed a spinal fusion from in my lumbar spine needed to be fused, the whole thing. And also transfixed down into my hips. So basically my entire bottom half of my lumbar spine was, the vertebrae were just like little spidery compression fractures all throughout it. And I only had one disc left in my lower spine. All the rest of them had ruptured. And so it was just vertebrae on vertebrae. And so I had 2 spinal surgeries in 2019. And the first one was in June. They were 30 days apart. The first one was in June, and it was on a Thursday. I got home on a Saturday, and by Monday, I was already receiving emails and phone calls about things with work. So my surgery was in June. I found the surgery was scheduled back in February. So there's a 4-month planning period, right? So 4-month planning period. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because, well, we always call Stephanie. She'll always take care of it. And what did I do? I answered the damn phone, you know? I mean, so yeah. So, I mean, as much as I want to say that, why couldn't they just do their job? I allowed it. And it just got to the point where, my husband even said after my second surgery and it was, time to go back to work. He said, gosh, Steph, are you sure that you want to do this? Yep. It's what I want to do. I'm going to be fine, and a lot of denial, but I went back, then, spring of 2020, enter COVID. Just a lot of things just kind of compounded on top of all of that. And the pressure of all of it that I put on myself was crippling. It really was. And I was too proud, probably looking back, to ask for help, too scared.
Mm.
I felt guilty. And so I would, you know, say on the way to work as I crossed the highway, man, the semi could
Mm.
just hit my car. That would, maybe I could get a break.
Mm.
And uh and then that thought went into some other not healthy thoughts where I actually, did have a plan to end my life, because that was what I thought was the only way to get out from under the pressure. And um, to this day, I have no idea why my husband woke up. Well, I do know why he woke up, but
Mm.
he woke up early that morning, and I didn't go through with it, obviously. And so at that point, it was it was when we both decided that it's time to make a change in circumstances. So
What did your
in visiting
husband
with,
say that morning? He obviously had it felt, compelled and called, obviously he was listening to.
yep, yep. So I hadn't shared any of what was going on with him
Mm.
because I didn't want to disappoint him either, which was the last thing that he would have been.
Of course.
But so he was obviously taken back, um, and shocked, and he just sat there on the floor and held me, and he just said, "It's going to be okay." He said, "We're going to get through it, and we're going to be fine. You're going to be fine." He told me he was proud of me, and that, you know, better things are coming. So
Mm.
he was 1000% um, my my rock through all of this, and has supported it 100%.
Mm.
Um,
So
so
beautiful.
yeah.
I can't imagine just going back to work after 2 days after back surgery, but you also were already dealing with all of the other health complications. Then you go into surgery.
Mhm.
What did that feel like? It's not like you must have felt like shit, like for months, for years probably, but
Yeah.
what was it like? And how did you even do that? Why, what are you looking back? You kind of probably get feeling worse and worse and worse, probably a gradual thing, or was it kind of
Mhm.
all of a sudden your body was like, no more?
So as far as my back goes, um, I was in a wheelchair for 4 months before back surgery because I could not walk. Um,
Mm.
the compression of everything, um, and the nerves and the damage that it had done to some of the nerves wouldn't allow my legs to walk. And what would happen is when I tried standing or tried walking, um, I would just have excruciating pain to the point where I would fall,
Mm.
and I wouldn't be able to control it. So I was able to walk with crutches first because, let's be real, let's be honest, I do not look good in a walker. At 30 whatever
Yeah.
7, I was like, no, not happening. But um but I had to have something to hold me up, and it just became to the point where crutches weren't enough. And so I was in a wheelchair for 4 months before surgery. Now, I do want to clarify, I did not actually go back into the office
Mm.
2 days later, but there were phone calls, emails, lots of business being had instead of allowing myself to rest,
Ugh.
for sure.
And those 4 months on crutches, you are in the office and you're going to
Yep.
construction sites. You're doing all of
Yep.
this.
So I didn't go to construction sites in a wheelchair. So in December, January, um, before my surgery, I was using crutches, and In February, it just became too much. So I was in a wheelchair. And yes, I was going to work every day. My kids or my husband would load me up in the morning,
No.
and I would pull in to the office, and the someone, it sometimes it was the owner, sometimes it was somebody else working in the office. They would come out and they would get the wheelchair out of the back, and then they would set it all up and then help me slide, you know, into it, and just would work like usual. I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, my mind was fine, my hands were fine. Um, so instead of walking, I just wheeled around.
It's insane. But the lupus diagnosis came 7 years before that.
Mhm.
What were some of the things that made you go, like you just must feel so tired and so
Mhm.
sick. You were so tired and so sick for 7 years before your back surgery.
Mhm.
And like, what do you think made you just keep pushing forward, keep going? Was your body giving you signs that you were just kind of ignoring?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. When you're running on that much stress and that much adrenaline all of the time, and the cortisol and is just so high in your body, that because of the amount of stress that you're under, you literally just block out everything. And to the point that I just wasn't allowing myself to feel
Yeah,
anything, um, honestly. And I didn't take any pain medication or anything prior to, any of this, which my surgeon thought was ridiculous. But one, I don't do real well on pain medications. They
I
make me
don't
sick,
either.
and so I just would rather. And I am of the thought that if you can't feel if you're getting any better, like if you can't feel how you feel, how do you know if you're getting better or not? So, um, so yeah, it didn't actually register really. What would happen is anytime there would be a particularly stressful point, like maybe we were finishing a project, or maybe we had a really, really critical deadline, and it was just we were working. Once that was met and it was over, it would take a couple of weeks, and then I would just crash and just feel terrible.
Mm.
Did I take care of myself? No. Did I keep doing what I was doing? Yes. Because it never registered with me that I didn't have to.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Totally. It's interesting.
And it sounds so
No,
ridiculous.
it's not ridiculous. I think we're wired similarly, and I can relate to part of that. And it
Mhm.
was interesting because my session of push, travel, basically to the point where my nanny is basically raising my kids. And then it was the economy that crashed and I
Mhm.
lost everything. So it was like I could finally the whole house burnt down, not, rhetorically. And I was kind of almost like, oh, thank God.
Mhm.
Because I don't have to go do that. I don't have to kill myself every single day. We just kept,
Yep.
losing clients and losing clients and losing clients. And I finally left the company, but it was such a relief. But I did have to completely crash. Everything had to come crashing down for me to go,
Mhm.
huh, now I can reevaluate and now I can figure out what I really want to do and what's going to work for me and my kids. And it's not exactly the same thing, but sometimes life has a funny way of giving us that crashing down moment. We almost have
Mhm.
to for us to wake up and
Yeah.
get it through our noggin that we need to make some changes and we don't have to kill ourselves every single day.
Right. And there were the final decision for me to retire was it wasn't directly related to my health. That was a side benefit, I guess you could say. There were some things that happened within the company that it was just time. It was just time for me to go. And the folks that were in the company and were moving up were able to take, just kind of chop what I did up into a bunch of different pieces and hire some people to take care of that. And so it was really perfect timing, not only for me, but for the company too. And so it was the right time.
Mm, that's also beautiful. And was that right time? Was it that right shortly after that moment in 2020 where you had the plan and you finally, told your husband what's going on?
Yep.
Was it right after that?
It was about a year later.
Wow.
About a year
So did
later.
you have a plan to leave at that point and kind of set it in place, or
No,
no,
there was a
still didn't?
straw.
Still had
There was a
another
straw.
year. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah.
What did it take to get you to say, okay, I'm gonna move on?
Um, there was a particular situation
Mm,
that I'm
right.
not gonna discuss here, but
Don't need to say
there
any
was a
details. It's
particular
okay.
situation, and I had given a direction um, to do some things, to put some specific things in place, and for protection of company,
Mhm.
and that didn't happen, and it caused a lot of, I'm going to use, I don't want to say damage because nothing was necessarily lost financially,
Mhm.
but um, it caused a lot of um, rework and data mining and recovery of a lot of items
Mm,
and documents and different things,
mhm.
and had um so that was just kind of the straw for me. I thought, here I am, I'm the one leading the charge, and I can't even get someone to just do something that's so simple
Mm,
that negatively impacted things so much. And I just thought, I'm not doing it. So that day I called the owner of the company and I said, we need to have a discussion about the future of the leadership of the company, because I'm no longer going to be part of it.
wow. And
So
then how long after that was your last day?
3 months.
So you gave him 3
Yeah.
months.
So
Wow.
I gave him,
Yeah.
yeah, that was in September.
Yeah.
And I gave him till the end of December as an actual employee. And then they retained me as a consultant to finish out a couple of the larger construction projects. I had a $30 million program that I had been working on, and a $20 million project that I was managing. And so they had me stay on to complete those. And that took another couple of years to get those to completion. But it wasn't full time. It was just as needed, which was fine.
Nice. So then you're talking about the beginning of 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when did the idea to start Philo Solutions come about?
It was actually before I
Mm.
decided to leave the other company. A friend of mine had opened a new company in 2020, actually, and they had a vocation, and had owned a couple of businesses, but really going out and starting one from scratch. They just would call every once in a while and say, "Hey, can we chat about this? I really need a CEO brain to help me." And so it was during one of those lunches, one of those meetings, that she said, "You should really think about doing this on your own. And I thought,
Hmm.
why? Who would who would do that? And then she said, well, I would, So anyway, I just gave it some thought, and a few weeks went by, and I just thought, you know what? Why not try it? Why not, you know? So I did, and thankfully by, the time that I um was done in December, full time with the other company, I had cultivated a few clients and was able to start really working on that. So going into 2022, I had some clients already, and then built on that for 2023. And so,
That's fantastic. Amazing. And what are the things that you have seen? What are the similarities between some of the businesses that you work with and some of your clients? And what are some of the common needs that you help with solutions?
I'm really glad that you asked that. Um, when I first started Philo Solutions, a lot of people ask me, well, what program do you use? Like, are you scaling up coach? Are you an EOS coach? Or are you, some of those that you can join other companies, right? Somebody else has developed this program, and it's kind of like an off the shelf, and you just buy
Mm,
into their program, right?
mm,
And I said, well, I don't have one, because I work individually with my clients where they're at. And out of that was born um, the Philo pillars, Philo pillars system, if you want to. Everything that we do is focused around four main areas: financials, because most company owners have no idea what their actual numbers are telling them in their business.
mhm,
Uh, Employee management, because um, a lot of my clients have employees. A lot of my clients don't know what to do with those employees. They don't know how to manage them. They don't know how to hold them accountable. Um, Systems and operations, because as we talked about earlier, there's no standard operating procedure. There's nothing to tell the office manager how to manage the office and what
mm,
to do. So a lot of my clients are just weary. They just say, God, I can't get these people to do anything. I have to leave them a list all the time. And I'll just say, well, do they have job descriptions? Do you have operating procedures for just the standard repetitive things?
mm,
So we work on systems, and then leadership development,
mm,
because most business owners just decided to start, and they start, and they do a great job at their craft or whatever they do to produce revenue, but they don't do a good job of investing in themselves to be better at leading their company.
mm,
So really, no matter the size of the business or where they're at, we focus on those four main areas in everything that we do.
mm. Brilliant. Yeah, I'd say those are the four most important things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're your four pillars. Those are excellent. And
Yep.
now you've been working for a long time on a new
Yep.
program, and I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
hear all about that.
Yep. So a couple of new things, and they tie together, or they can be, singular if someone wants that. But in a couple of different conferences that I've been to, just the mass amounts of small business owners that could really benefit from just some basic information just to get them started,
Mhm.
or just kind of refreshers, was really eye-opening to me, just during roundtable discussions, or discussions during break or at lunch or dinner or whatever that looked like. And when I started Philo Solutions, I was just doing one-to-one consulting or one-to-one coaching. Say Karen Stanley would hire me. We would determine kind of what platform, what tier you wanted to invest in for your business, and we would work on that. And it became really clear to me that there were a lot of people who weren't quite ready for that, either financially or just they were really scared to know that much about their business, honestly. So I developed Philo Business Solutions audit. And what that is a one-day audit. I audit the business using the pillar system. And I meet the owner, and take all of the information that they can give me. There's actually an onboarding form. It's several pages long that is either yes or no, or just quick filling in the information. I ask as many questions as I can think of. That way the business owner doesn't have to sit there and type out, essays of everything. But I use the onboarding form, and then the financial data and any other of the other supplementary things that I ask for, just, do you have this? Go ahead and send it in. And then I take that and dive into where that company is in each of those pillars, right? Mm. And from that, produce a report for each section that just says, here's where you're at, here's where you want to go, and here's the steps to get there. That audit, I provide templates and resources for the companies if they don't already have them. Mm-hmm. That way they don't have to go through the process of recreating these forms or finding the forms and doing all of the things, right? Because all of the forms that we all use, a lot of the templates that we all use, they all have the same information. They just look different, right? Really? So once the audit is complete, I compile a report that goes back to the business owner, and we schedule a call or in person if we can, to sit down and really go over it and explain what it means, where they're at now, and then what they want to do in the future. What are their goals? What do they want to grow? Do they want to expand? Do they want to just stay right where they're at and just maximize everything they can? What are their goals? And so we go through that, and the audit report will provide a roadmap for them on how to get there. And then it's up to them. They can go on their own. They can hire me as a consultant to help them get there. Mm-hmm. Or they can sign up for Philo Business Institute, which is the second thing that I've been working on. And what that is it's an online training platform for business owners without all of the feel-good fluff. I mean, it's nuts and bolts, black and white, tactical. Here's what we're going to talk about and learn. Here's what we're going to learn. Now go do it. So it's all of the things. It's my standard operating procedure, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to look at it that way, it's everything in my brain that, from my experiences, successes, challenges, failures, whatever it is, that I have broken down into those 4 categories that we talked about, and then just break each thing down so granular that you can walk step by step through each piece. And when you're done with the financial portion, you'll have gone through, somewhere around 50 videos and tutorials to where you should have a really good grasp of what your financial picture looks like. Once you get through the employee management portion, you will understand or be able to have the tools and resources to manage your employees, with job descriptions, with review forms, with templates, to help you do the documentation portion of it, but also how to manage different personalities, what it means when you have these 2 people and they're great at what they do, but they are 2 completely different people and you can't manage them the same. How do you do that? Yeah. Managing different generations, how you train people, how you hold your employees accountable and not chop their head off, right? I mean, yes, when you hear on TV, it is, because you hear on TV, Well, they've got to be held accountable, right? Like that is the phrase.
Yeah.
Well, it usually means someone's getting put in jail, they're getting annihilated, their head's getting chopped off, or some torture chamber or whatever. There's such a negative connotation to the word
Mhm.
accountable. And it's
Mhm.
really not. It's just a conversation of, hey, Karen, I just wanted to follow up and see if you were going to be able to have that report to me tomorrow that we had talked about. Oh, you're running a little behind on it. Okay, well, let's just make that the end of the day instead of noon.
Yeah.
It's literally a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Now the burden is on the business owner or the manager to follow up and make sure that it does get seen through. And if there is constant, lack on the employee's part, getting to the root of why is that happening?
Yeah.
Um, but then, breaking down systems and what does that look like, and making sure that the business owner understands that they don't have to have 100% of everything documented, and how to get them to pull out what those core processes are and how
Mhm.
to document those. There's templates for all kinds of different systems and how to map it out to where eventually they can just write them, you know.
Love
And then
it.
the leadership development part is just a lot of how to take care of yourself, how to be a good leader, how to model, those different things.
Mm.
I think there is a little bit of a misconception too on what being a boss is. It's not just a plaque, it's not a name placard that's on the outside of your door. What does that look like? And how do you build a culture? How do you really make sure that you operate within your core values? How do you hire people that are going to operate within your core values? Just some of those things that we all would love to do. We just don't really think about it and think it's
You
this
said,
big, you know,
yeah,
thing.
yeah, like it's esoteric. It's not definable, but it is
Right.
actually. And I
Mhm.
think you said how to model that. And the reason why we need that is because most of us have not had that modeled. And
Mhm.
therefore, we just need to learn how to do it. We just need to learn what it looks like. We don't have an
Yeah.
example of that in our lives. Most people, have not worked for a boss who has modeled leadership
Right.
and accountability and kindness, compassion, growth, mentorship. Most of us did not have that modeled for us. And then we become leaders. And because we excel at the job, whatever our job was, most people get promoted, which is awesome.
Mhm.
And they don't have that modeled for them. We're just supposed to
Right.
just know how to be a leader all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah. You're great at what you do, so I'm going to
Yeah,
put you in charge of 30 people who do the same thing that you do, and you're supposed to get the best out of them. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And,
which is fantastic. It's just
no
right,
fault of their own,
exactly.
but if you look at the amount of entrepreneurs and small business owners, why did they choose to do that? The vast majority of them are because they didn't have what they needed to be fulfilled in their previous job. They didn't have a good culture. They didn't have good leadership. They didn't have that, it was just a free for all. So, well, I'm going to and I'm going to do better. And every single person does that with the intention of doing better. And
100%.
some do it great,
Mhm.
but also people get caught up in the doing, right? Of their vocation because they're really good at it and it's comfortable. So what do we do when we start feeling uncomfortable? We revert back to the things that are comfortable. I do it still to this
It's
day.
human nature. Mhm.
Still to this day. And then it's having somebody say, why are you taking care of all of that? Because if you're doing all of that, why are you paying all of those people to sit out there?
Yeah.
Because running your business costs X number of dollars an hour. So if you want to do all of these things, then just go ahead and light $1,200 on fire every hour, because that's the equivalent of you not delegating.
Right.
Um, and that's how I coach
Yeah.
people
Well, and I think
because
so,
that's
but
how,
yeah, it's so great to have an outside perspective. We all get kind of, trapped in our day to day, everything that we need to do. Our emails are 500 a day, and it's so easy. It's not easy to run a business. It's easy to get caught up in the
no,
things that need to be done every single day, and we never do the important things. We only do the urgent things. It's just how it is. It's so easy to do. So it's really helpful to have an outside person who's never looked at the situation before, who can bring a
mhm,
different perspective, and you go, oh, gotcha. Yes, I can focus on this, and I need to work on that. I can get some help over here, and I need to delegate XYZ. It's
right.
fantastic. I love it.
Yep, exactly. One of my clients ran a large organization and they had 5 different departments. And just the culture wasn't super great. And it wasn't bad, but it
Yeah.
wasn't super great. It just kind of felt, and so after digging in, really trying to understand why, I had one of the things that I do is with the leadership part of it is I have all of the owners or the leaders, the managers, whoever it is that I'm working with, keep a log for 2 weeks on everything they do. I mean, everything they do. When they take a phone call, when they send an email, whatever, and do that throughout the day. And what we found is this particular person was doing a lot of the work or intimately involved with a lot of the work that the department heads were supposed to be doing.
Hmm.
And the department heads felt like they weren't trusted. They were being micromanaged, that they didn't have any freedom to do anything because anytime they would come and discuss something with the CEO, the response was, "Oh, okay, well, I let me know when you do that. I can help you with that." Well, so then
Hmm.
they felt like they had to. She was just offering,
Mhm.
pardon me, to offer. Um, and then what happened is she was doing a lot of the work for them.
Hmm.
And it was just really easy to see, well, why are you doing this? Well, because so and so, I'm just helping. Mm-mm. If
Hmm.
you're doing this, then you don't need this employee.
Right.
And if you're doing that, and so just being able to see that on paper and having those conversations and then really challenging them to let go of that. So every week when we met, I would ask her for the notes of their one on one meetings and, okay, and what piece are you working on? To where it got to the point where she was not working on any of the things that her department heads were supposed to be working on. She was only working on things that were the highest and best use of her time as the CEO and the owner. And just watching that culture change to where the employees felt heard, they felt valued, they felt freer to do some of the things. But you just get so caught in the weeds
Yep.
sometimes that you don't see things.
100%.
Um,
And most people
so
have not led a big team.
right.
You don't know what you don't know until you start
Hmm.
trying to do that. You can be really great at a lot of things, and maybe even have a small team at one point.
Right.
And but a small team is completely different than a larger team. And my
Yeah.
husband's team is 150 people. Most people have never and will never be in charge of 150 employees ever in their entire lives. And so
Right.
you don't know what you don't know until you do it. And it's so
Hmm.
great that you're providing so much training and accountability, and just having that external coach go,
Yep.
see some of the holes, see where we can build a
Yep.
better culture. And it's really exciting. It's fantastic.
And I love doing it
Yeah.
because I tell my clients everything that I teach on and everything that I have learned is because I've learned it the hard way, because
Yeah.
I've messed it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good business coach because I was perfect. I'm a good business coach because I screwed a ton of stuff up,
Yeah.
a ton,
Yep.
and had to figure it out.
Right.
And a lot of times I had to figure it out under fire, under pressure. It was somebody else's money that, because I didn't own
Mhm.
the business. I was the CEO, but but it wasn't my money. And
Right.
so when you screw up or, allow something to happen because you didn't have your controls in place, and you have to justify that to the board, so to speak,
Mhm.
and say, here's where I messed up. You better come immediately after that with, but here's the plan to fix it. Here's how we fixed it. And here's the financial impact of whatever it was. And it better be small, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to be the person to my clients that I wish I had 20 years ago, so that maybe I wouldn't have had so many train wrecks and I wouldn't have so many scars from all of the mistakes that I made. And I am grateful that the company that I worked for, the owners afforded me, what's the word where you get to do whatever you want?
Responsibility,
Autonomy.
freedom, autonomy.
Yeah, autonomy. And they trusted me.
Mhm.
And I wasn't perfect. And I messed up a lot, but I figured out a way out of it and how not to do it again.
I love
And
it.
so that's where my knowledge comes from. And I do tell on myself with my clients. They'll have something and think it's so terrible. I'm like, seriously, no. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
That's
that does, vulnerability with them does allow them to say, okay,
yeah.
maybe I'm not the only one.
Nope.
Um, but
I love it.
just helping people succeed. I love to see people succeed.
Yeah.
And
I can tell.
so, yeah.
And you are, in fact, being the person
Mm-hmm.
that you wish you had. And that's
Yep.
an incredible thing. Stephanie,
Thanks.
where can everybody find you who needs a coach
Uh,
and a strategist and a
yes,
consultant like we
yes,
all do?
yes. So I do have a website, Philo Solutions, LLC.com, PHILO, for Philo. And I am also on Instagram, Philo Solutions. I am on Facebook, again, Philo Solutions, just trying to keep it very simple.
Yeah.
They can message me there. On all my profiles, it gives the link tree in the bio portion, gives my email, my phone number. All of those are also listed on the website. When they go to the website, if they are interested in the business solutions audit or business institute, they can actually purchase those things directly from my website under the Learn tab. It gives options for all of those. If anyone would like more information on any of that, I've got some information packets I can send out in some more detail if they want to shoot me over an email or a direct message or something.
Awesome.
I try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. That's so great. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your
You're
wisdom and your
welcome.
story. And I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Karen.
Thank you for being here and listening to my show. If you got any value at all, it would mean the world if you shared it and left a review. Remember, the only way to create the life you love is to take it one day at a time. Create today. God bless you.